for Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan.
Ready, set.
Just call me Swanee.
Tiger style. Tiger style.
Finally, Clemson Sports Talk has come back to Drive Time. Hello, everybody. Lawton Swan back in the saddle once again. It is the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk for you each and every afternoon as you make your way around the great state of South Carolina and beyond, listening to us on incredible radio stations like Fox Sports Radio 1400 in the Midlands, heard around the world on the iHeart Radio app. Download today. Certainly appreciate each and every one of you being a part of this program. Again, Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers kicking off spring practice today. We'll have more on that front, plus a key loss for the Clemson Tigers, not even due to an injury, according to Dabo Swinney. We'll give you an update on who's going to be out and the effects that it might have on your Clemson Tigers heading into this season, and they cannot afford to lose anybody. We'll give you an update on that here momentarily. Of course, your Clemson Tiger men's basketball team tonight defending their home turf, one of their final two home games of the season, one of their final two regular season matchups as they close the year against Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech. And that matchup, again, comes up tonight on the ACC network at 7 o'clock. So a lot to get to there. Of course, yesterday, if you weren't a part of the program and you missed it, we were joined by Monty Lee, Clemson Tiger men's baseball coach. I guess technically the only baseball coach. There's a softball coach in town as well. But Monty Lee talked about Clemson and South Carolina. That interview, full length, up right now on our website, ClemsonSportsTalk.com. He called it the matchup between Clemson and South Carolina, one of the greatest rivalries in baseball, and that is where we begin today's program with Monty Lee and the Clemson Tigers yesterday moving to 8-0, powering past the USC Upstate Spartans in a matchup that honestly, I think for everybody, if you heard from Coach Lee, he said, listen, we got to be ready for this team. They're the type of team that could come out and beat you. The Tigers did jump out to a quick lead in the ball game, but nonetheless, the Spartans bounce back late, and Clemson ultimately comes through as Clemson gets 3 runs in the bottom of the 8th inning after a 5-0 lead turns into a 5-5 tie. The Clemson Tigers find a way to get it done. French home run to left field, and then Brewer homered to right field after Blackwell had gotten on base, and that gave Clemson the 3-run cushion that they needed to close things out in the top of the 9th inning. And with that, the Tigers move to their series against the South Carolina Gamecocks. Things get underway at Founders Park on Friday in Columbia on the SEC Network Plus. So again, the Clemson Tigers finding a way up 5-0 early. They scored, in the second inning, Caden Grice. Actually, the Tigers scored 4 runs in the first inning with Cooper Ingalls run-scoring single, and then Briar Hawkins hit a 3-run homer, which is his 3rd of the season. Then it was the second inning when Caden Grice hit a 2-out run-scoring single to extend Clemson's scoring streak to 10 innings in a row over 2 games and help build that 5-0 lead. Again, the Spartans would bounce back later in the contest to tie things up. But then Clemson ultimately pushed across the key 3 runs necessary in the bottom of the 8th inning, with French leading off the inning with a 2-0 pitch, just nailed it over the left field fence for his first home run of the season. Then 2 batters later, it was Dylan Brewer hitting a 435-foot 2-run shot, the first of the season for him as well. And that got the job done for Clemson, who are now 8-0 as they head in to take on the South Carolina Gamecocks. We'll have more on that series coming up for you over the next few days as we move towards the weekend. But first, the comments from Monty Lee after this ball game. And again, we had Monty Lee on this program yesterday, but we hear from Monty Lee, Jonathan French, and Briar Hawkins after the Tigers win.
What a great win for our club tonight against USC Upstate, who, I've said time and time again, Mike McGuire's one of the best coaches in the country. His teams are just so disciplined. They play the game the right way. They're very hard-nosed. Their pitchers command pitches. They put together really good at-bats. They're incredibly competitive. They're a very tough team to play, and you can see that tonight. It's very difficult to come in on the road and be down 5-0 and scratch and claw your way back into the game, wind up tying the game up there in the 8th. And luckily for us, we had the last at bat and we had our closer available once we took the lead. And that was the difference. I thought Billy Barlow, again, as a true freshman, was outstanding in his start. And I thought Jackson Lindley was huge for us, to be able to pitch out of the 7th inning the way he did, had a couple runners on base, was able to pitch out of it. And, Eddie scuffled a little bit, but that's good for him. I mean, he needs to go through that. He needs to be able to work his way out of situations with runners on base. And, he just didn't make some pitches, and you give your leadoff guy credit. He's an older player, 2 strikes. He, smoked the ball to the opposite field. But the great thing about our club is just how resilient we are. Frenchie came up obviously in the bottom of the 8th and gotten a good count to hit and drilled it, absolutely drilled it in a critical moment. And then Brewer followed up with with the home run there, and we put together our second big inning of the game. And it's very difficult to win a baseball game when a team has 2 big innings in one game. We hit the big 3-run homer in the first with Briar. And then, again, their bullpen did a really good job. But credit to our guys. We found a way to stay upbeat, even when they came back on us. And we got the last at bat, and we certainly made it count.
That was kind of epic right there.
Definitely the home run. I mean, it was just, amazing, just great feeling, connecting with the ball, sticking to my approach. It was just a great experience, honestly.
I think it was a 2-0 count that you hit it. That's a hitter's count, obviously, but were you just looking for that pitch?
Oh, well, we got the 2-0, and Coach Lee gave me the, to stay on your pitch, and, that would be fastball right down the middle. And I told myself, if I get it, I'm not going to be late on it. I'm going to be on time, and I'm going to put a good swing on it. And that's just what happened.
Prior to speak to how well you're staying on the ball, that home run was an oppo.
Yeah.
Right there. It kind of shaking off that first game, and now how does anybody in the country?
Sir, yeah. Before going into that game, we knew that pitcher was going to work us right-handed hitters up and away. So during batting practice today, I really focused on staying on the ball and hitting the ball up the middle to right field. And luckily, I got one that was up in the zone, and I was able to hit it out.
So there you have it. Some of the comments following Clemson's 8-5 victory over USC Upstate. 803-450-0086. Again, we'll hope to get you some commentary from Dabo Sweeney coming up as well. Again, Clemson, however, baseball this weekend taking on the South Carolina Gamecocks, a 3-game series set to begin on Friday right here in Columbia in the Midlands of South Carolina. That matchup will take place over at Carolina Stadium, I guess technically, on the SEC Network Plus at 7 o'clock on Friday. Saturday's matchup at 4 p.m. will not be televised. It will be played over at Segra Park. And then on Sunday, Clemson and South Carolina playing in Tigertown at 3 o'clock on the ACC Network. That's what we're looking at as it pertains to the rivalry here in the state of South Carolina. One of the best in all of college baseball. I've argued at times maybe the best. Both teams, though, again, Clemson obviously out to a solid start at 8-0, but both teams still, not quite where they once were. in the landscape of college baseball. And I think as far as the fans go, they certainly hope to get back there at some point. Obviously, the players and coaches do as well. But even though you might not be at the top, it still doesn't lose that luster when it comes down to the matchup between these two teams. One of the best in the country, no doubt. 803-450-0086. Text line and phone line. Be a part of the program anytime, any place, anywhere. And always appreciate you guys hanging out with us. And again, if you missed our interview with Monty Lee, it is on the front page of our website right now. Go check it out. All right, so here's what we're dealing with on the front of Clemson football. The Tigers are getting into spring practice. And it was just a few short weeks ago that we got the news that Hunter Rayburn would be stepping away from playing the game, that he was going to be a assistant coach, so to speak, a student assistant, helping out with the team. And while that's not overly awful because of the issues that he's dealing with, the stingers that he's had, players have to take care of themselves. Nobody has ever denied that fact, and nobody has ever believed otherwise on that front. And I think we have reached a point maybe in sports and college football, and I said this the other week when we were talking about this, I think that there is a recognition of players now more so than in the 50s and 60s and even before that of the life after football and what you eventually will go through if you don't take care of yourself now. And players are much more willing to step away from the game. And losing Hunter Rayburn, who had a chance to be the starting center for Clemson this year, absolutely set this group back. But I think the hope from a lot of people was that Mason Trotter would be able to fill in and play that role for Clemson. And instead, we get the news today from Dabo Swinney that Mason Trotter will probably be out most of the season with a non-injury situation. He said there was nothing he was mad at or a legal issue. Trotter has 2 seasons of eligibility left after this year. According to Dabo Swinney, what's going to happen, Will Putnam will move over to first-team center to start spring practice. Trent Howard and Ryan Linthicum will also battle for playing time with Putnam. Ryan Linthicum, of course, from Damascus, Maryland, the former high school teammate of Brian Brzee, was brought in, I think, strategically to be a center for this team. And it's just going to come down to whether or not he can develop fast enough to help this group out. And so here we sit heading into the spring, and I know there are questions at quarterback, but incredibly, the center has become a focal point as it pertains to Clemson's success this coming season. And we knew when Hunter Rayburn went down that this group was thin. There was some speculation around Trotter and his situation. But again, nothing definitive on that front. And now with the news being official out of Tiger Town, there is definitely I don't want to call it a situation per se, but there is a reason to be, dare we say, on alert about what Clemson's center position might look like coming into this fall. It is a long way off. I want to say that first and foremost. It is a long way off. And a guy like Will Putnam could certainly, fill the shoes and do the job. You could also see a guy like Ryan Linthicum maturing into his role. There are plenty of other players on this team that have the potential to step up and fill some of the vacancies that are created by the numbers moving around. But what happens here and moving forward over the next couple of weeks during spring practice could really set the tone for the position as we finally arrive on August camp. I mean, that's how quickly a spot that I listen, I wouldn't say there weren't concerns previously about the center position at Clemson. I think given the fact that the offensive line this past year was not great, there was always some level of concern to what this offensive line group might look like this year. But now, with the news over the past couple of weeks, Rayburn and now Trotter, all of a sudden, if this was a thin line in your mind previously, it is a paper thin margin of error, you would believe, for Clemson. And when you think about the frequency of injuries with offensive linemen, from just guys getting rolled up on or whatever, it's already a spot where depth can become an issue, and it appears to be an issue for Clemson. And whether or not, and I'll have to pull all of Dabo Swinney's audio, and then, like I said, we'll try to get some of it for you, his meeting with the media just a little bit ago. But perhaps Dabo Swinney decides to dive into the portal. Could Clemson go gazing into the portal for a center? And are there names available at center in the portal that would be worth diving into? I mean, listen, you know my thoughts on the portal. Eventually, it has to be a two-way street. It cannot be essentially exit only. And I know that Hunter Johnson came in, but again, he's a grad transfer. He could have done that anyway. But could there be a point where the Tigers over the next 5 months or less dive into the portal to pull out a player that they believe can make them better at center heading into the 2022 season? And I honestly think a lot of it will shake out with the decisions based off of how some of these guys play during spring. I think what we've learned through the years is there is still plenty of time to go out and get somebody. Players even jump into the portal after spring ball. And if there's not a name there today that fits Clemson or their needs, I don't expect the Tigers to just blindly go in and accept somebody. But I do think we are getting to the point where Dabo Swinney is going to have to seriously evaluate, especially if things don't go well in the spring, that transfer portal for a center. And that's not the end of the world if that is the case. That's the name of the game in 2022. And if indeed it turns out that the Tigers do need a center at that point, then I fully expect the Tigers would be willing to take a center at that point. 803-450-0086 with a quick break here on a Wednesday afternoon. Stay with us. It is the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk. Lawton Swan with you on a Wednesday afternoon. We got an update for you out of the Atlantic Coast Conference Women's Tournament. And also tonight, let's not forget, your Clemson Tiger men take on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets at Little John Coliseum, looking for their third consecutive win, all three without the services of P.J. Hall, who has been the Tigers' most consistent and best player this year. What a unique situation appears to be unfolding at this point for Clemson. And I would say to you this, imagine, if you will, a scenario where Clemson wins the next couple of games. I'm not sure if P.J. Hall's playing or not. I don't know if he'll play this game or against Virginia Tech. But imagine for a second, if you will, that P.J. Hall does not play, but yet Clemson wins the next two ball games. 4-game streak minus PJ. What if he comes back and this Clemson Tiger team is playing a lot better basketball? I have been critical. I have not been, hey, fire the coach critical, but I have been critical. And I think to myself, what could this team look like in a week or so if they get another couple of games to play well? If you get P.J. Hall back in the mix, does that clog things down? We talked with William Qualkenbush about that. I speculated maybe that could happen, that you could sort of return to what you were doing. And again, it wasn't bad basketball with P.J. Hall, but you just have to wonder if there's a little more flow, for lack of a better word, without him, especially flow from the perimeter, maybe even a willingness from the perimeter to shoot the basketball a little bit more. And I don't know that's necessarily a good thing, but what if the tempo and everything that you've kind of picked up on without P.J. Hall carries over to when he comes back and you're playing better? I mean, like some people might say, Swanee, you are a glass half full guy. And maybe I am. Maybe I am an optimist. But it doesn't seem like this stretch is a bad thing for this Clemson basketball team, especially if they were to continue to go out and win ball games. And again, we'll talk about this Clemson-Georgia Tech matchup more in just a little bit. 803-450-0086. But at the women's Atlantic Coast Conference tournament, the Clemson Tigers advance with an 88-69 victory over Syracuse. The win moves the Clemson Tigers to 10-20 on the year, and the loss ended the Syracuse Oranges season at 11-18. Delisha Washington finished her fifth double-double of the season with 33 points and 11 rebounds in the contest to help carry the Clemson Tigers. The Tigers opened up a 12-point lead in the third quarter, beginning by jumping on the Orange out of the frame, outscoring them 10-4 to take that 12-point lead. Ultimately, Clemson would come through with a victory. Speaking of which, the Tigers, and I actually remembered this as they were going into this ball game, had gotten slaughtered by the Syracuse Orange earlier this season by 40 back in December. And so with today's victory, a 19-point win, that is a 59-point turnaround. Clemson will take on the 5th seed, Virginia Tech, tomorrow, the Hokies, at 11 a.m. in the first game of the ACC's second round. So the Tigers advance at the women's tournament. Amanda Butler, it was not a good season. She does have a McDonald's All-American coming in next season. And perhaps with a little momentum here in the late stages with Delisha Washington and the future of what this program may look like this time next year could be, maybe the complexion is completely different. But again, there is no question that was a big victory for the Lady Tigers on the hardwood there in Greensboro, getting the job done with a 19-point victory and a 59-point turnaround from where they were the last time they faced off with the Syracuse Orange. After the game, Amanda Butler said she was really proud of the team's fight, their ability to collect themselves, and come into the postseason really ready to play. She said in a lot of moments in this game, brought out Clemson's best, which is what she's always chasing. As for Delisha Washington, she said she did a fantastic job of leading us and filling that stat sheet like we put pressure on her to do. She also mentioned the play of Amari Robinson, who played a tough ball game. Hannah Hanks, who had her best game of the season offensively. She went on to say she was just really proud of her upperclassmen as they set the tone for this team. 803-450-0086. Congratulations to Amanda Butler and the Lady Tigers. What a huge win that was at the Atlantic Coast Conference Tournament. Not so much, by virtue of who you beat. Maybe not even so much so about how you beat them, but the fact that you beat them, given that they had hammered Clemson by 40 points earlier this year. Again, that matchup between Clemson and Virginia Tech will take place tomorrow up in Greensboro at 11 a.m. 803-450-0086, 803-450-0086, text line, phone line, be a part of the show. Again, we talked about Dabo Swinney a little bit earlier. The news, Mason Trotter expected to miss most of the season. Undisclosed reason. We will continue to follow and monitor that story, and that pushes us towards the development of what will Clemson's offensive line look like, especially at center coming out of the spring. Heading into the spring, Will Putnam is going to slide over from guard. We'll see what happens with that over the next few weeks as the Tigers practice and prepare for the spring game coming up next month. With a quick break, we'll bounce back with more here, and we'll update you on the Clemson Tiger men's basketball team when we get back on the show that shakes the Southland, Clemson Sports Talk. Rolling along on a Wednesday afternoon, the show that shakes the Southland, Clemson Sports Talk. Again, congratulations to Amanda Butler and the Lady Tiger basketball team, their victory at the ACC tournament over Syracuse. A huge win for that program, just for a final opportunity to go out and play another game, because the season's over. If you don't continue to win, it's a done deal. You're 10-20 on the year. But Washington with a big game, 33 points. Clemson wins it 88-69 to advance to take on the 5th seed Virginia Tech Hokies tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the second round of the ACC tournament. So huge win for the Lady Tigers just to keep the season alive, right? Like at this point, doesn't it feel like, if you're the Lady Tigers, doesn't it feel like the NCAA tournament in some respects? I mean, I know it's not, but it's win or go home. It's win or go home. There's no reason not to pour it all out. We'll see how they perform tomorrow against the Virginia Tech Hokies. 803-450-0086. Well, the Virginia Tech Hokies will take on the men's basketball team a little later this weekend, but the men's team tonight will take on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Don't forget, this is an opportunity for Clemson to earn a victory after falling on the road to the Yellow Jackets earlier this season by 5 points in a frustrating defeat. Another one of those games. I know it wasn't one of those 1 or 2 point losses, but it was one of those games that I think most people, most Tiger fans, felt like Clemson should have won that game. Let me just say that the right way. I think a lot of people felt like Clemson is better than this Georgia Tech team. And unfortunately for the Tigers, They didn't play that way in the first half, scoring just 20 points and having to try to fight their way back. Now, they outscored the Yellow Jackets in the second half, 44-36 in that game, but it just was not enough to overcome the deficit that they dug very early on in that game. In that contest, Clemson was 10 of 11 from the free throw line. That really wasn't the issue, but 6 of 24 from downtown. And the only player that hit a three-pointer in that game, Alamir Dawes. Everybody else was 0 for the afternoon. The Tigers have to be better from the perimeter. They have to be better from the field in this ball game. I think that when you just go back and review what's kind of plagued this group at times, it can be falling in love with the three. And I think they've got to be a little bit more efficient from that standpoint. I don't have a problem with guys shooting it, but I do frown upon 0 for 4 performances. A couple of 0 for 3s. Not great in anybody's book, but I do think tonight the Tigers have a great chance in this ball game to rebound or bounce back or whatever you want to call it, simply because when they faced off with the Yellow Jackets earlier this year, I truly believe that Clemson was the better team. I think winning on the road is always tough, but that's an environment there in Atlanta that I think Clemson should play better in than they have traditionally. 26-46 on the road in Atlanta all time. I think Clemson's got to be better on the road in Atlanta. I mean, because you flip-flop it in at home, Clemson's 47-17, 30 games up on the Yellow Jackets. So it's weird that you could be 30 games to the good and then 20 games to the bad. They got to be better on the road, but it's not on the road tonight. It's in Little John Coliseum, and I do like the Tigers' chances tonight, whether or not P.J. Hall plays. I still think Clemson's got a great chance to win this ball game. There's a lot of confidence right now with Alamir Dawes and Chase Hunter. Chase Hunter is a kid who can create his own shot, something Clemson has, I think, missed over the past, who knows, few years, three years maybe. I guess you'd have to go back to like a Marquise Reed, 2018-ish, somewhere in there before you really felt like you maybe had a guy that could kind of create the way that Chase Hunter can. The good news is Chase Hunter's a little bit bigger, stockier. He's really bought in on the defensive end of the court. I think David Collins has been sort of a glue guy all season for this group. And look, they're not a perfect basketball team by any stretch of the imagination. But I think the past week and a half or two without P.J. Hall has given them a chance to grow up a little bit. I think they're probably still frustrated that they lost at Louisville, even though you lose P.J. Hunter in the first minute, which is sort of a shock to the system, but should not have been we can't go out and win this game type shock, but yet they still were defeated by 9. I think they got a really good chance to possibly run the table in the regular season. And then, as I said earlier in the week, the ACC tournament, once you get there, all bets are off. There's really only one elite team in this league. You are not hearing me say, though, Clemson's going to win the Atlantic Coast Conference tournament. But could they go there and win a game or two? Yeah, I think that's absolutely possible. And then could you finish the season, heading into the final game on like a 6-game winning streak? Maybe so. And that would feel good given the fact that you just had a big 6-game losing skid, which, you're going to look back on the loss at Florida State, the losses against Duke in North Carolina. I mean, those close ball games, Boston College, that where you stumped your toe. And again, I think you're going to look back on 69-64 loss at Georgia Tech back on February 5th as a game that you should have won. And that was the one that started that 6-game losing streak. And I think that's a game, and I think this is a team that Clemson is better than in the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. And I think at home tonight you'll see that. I think you'll see that Clemson's the better team. That matchup again on the ACC Network, 7:01, the tip-off from Little John Coliseum up in Tigertown. 803-450-0086. Let us know what you think. Can Clemson finish the season on a 4-game winning streak? I honestly think they can. Final segment of hour number 1, the show that shakes the Southland Clemson Sports Talk. Again, the biggest news out of Tigertown today, that in which Dabo Swinney dropped on the media earlier. We had heard that there might be something going on with Mason Trotter, just not sure what. Still technically not 100% sure what, but Mason Trotter, according to Dabo Swinney, is probably going to be out for most of the season with a non-injury situation. Said it was nothing dealing with a legal issue, just sort of an undisclosed reason here with Mason Trotter. And again, you never want to speculate on these things, so I won't speculate on them. Now, this is in addition to the fact that Hunter Rayburn, who was expected to be Clemson's starting center, is out and will step away from the sport. I did speculate on this. I did. You hate to speculate, but I did speculate on this that, I think that anytime you've got injuries, the way, the situation that Hunter Rayburn is dealing with the stingers in his neck, I mean, is it possible that Hunter Rayburn decides in a year that he wants to come back and play? I would say that's possible. I mean, I think that you can reach the point as an athlete where the hunger to play the game outweighs the concern of looming issues. Now, if a athletic department or somebody else won't let you play, then yeah, that's a different story. And I think we saw with Richard Yergin, who ultimately left the Clemson program and played at Boston College, that there might be some schools that are a little more lenient or might not be as hesitant to let a guy play or give him a second opinion on the opportunity to go play. And I think that with Rayburn's situation, I think there is a legitimate possibility that Hunter Rayburn could come back at some point. I just don't know if or when that would be, and maybe it's not even at Clemson. And maybe it's never. But with the Mason Trotter deal, just, so many unknowns, to be honest with you. And I know that it is a position where the Tigers have some needs. I know it's a position where I think we were talking with, I think it was John Blau a week ago today, as a matter of fact. We were talking about the situation. I think John said, look, I don't know if Clemson will have to go into the portal to fix their center issues. But if at this point it turns out that Will Putnam doesn't develop or Clemson can't really feel comfortable at guard after you move Putnam, then maybe Thomas Austin looks at Dabo Swinney. Thomas Austin, of course, the new offensive line coach. Maybe he looks at Dabo Swinney and says, hey, man, listen, I know we wanted to try to utilize the players who committed to Clemson, utilize the guys that have been all in since day one, but we've got some issues, and we need to go out and try to address it via the portal. And so if that is the case, then that's just what it is. I'll say this. If you're 5 games into the season next year and you're struggling at center and Clemson didn't do a thing in the portal to address it over the next few months, I think you have every right to be angry or frustrated or however you are about it. And my reasoning on that is that it's not as if this is some unknown. And if you want to be an optimist and say, I think there's enough hay in the barn to fix the issue, and you go through the spring and you don't address it, and you still just kind of hold on to that belief, and you don't go out and get somebody out of the portal, then fans have the right to be incredibly critical of the decision making to not go out and bring in somebody to help fill the spot. Does that make sense? Like, I mean, at that point, your frustration is warranted. I would even argue that it's magnified exponentially, because we sat here on March 2nd, and we discussed the fact at 4:56, whatever, 4:55 in the PM, that this was a possibility for your Clemson Tigers, something that they could run into. It's like looking down the horizon and seeing some nails in the road and saying, I think we'll pass on putting a spare in the trunk. Make some more room for some ice. Keep the drinks cold for when we get to our destination. No, you see the nails in the road. And so you can risk it for the biscuit, as they say. But if you falter or fall and ultimately you hit the 5th or 6th game of the season and people are going, well, Clemson's biggest issue is they didn't address the fact that, they had a center concern coming into the year. And then they start rattling off names that were in the portal. They missed out on old Kevin Coleman. Don't forget about their opportunity to get, Brent Smith. Yeah, they didn't go in the portal. I mean, that you guys have every right at that point to be frustrated. No doubt about it. And I'll support you 110%. With a quick break, hour 2 coming up next. Stay with us.
It's time for Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan.
Ready, set.
Call me Swanee.
Tiger style. Tiger style.
It is hour number 2. That's Drive Time right here on the show that shakes the Southland Clemson Sports Talk. Lawton Swan with you. Again, Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tiger football team on the practice field today as they get prepared for spring practice. Our buddy, who typically joins us here on a Wednesday afternoon, John Blau with the Post and Courier, cannot join us because he's actually at practice right now up in Tiger Town. Again, coming up tonight at 7 o'clock on the ACC network, your Clemson Tigers will take on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. 803-450-0086. Text line, phone line, be a part of the program anytime, anyplace, anywhere. Yesterday we talked about attendance at college football games, and I'll be honest, I was a little surprised I didn't get more feedback from you guys on this. Maybe you thought Swanee, you're all over it. But I do want to ask you a couple of things here again today about all of this. First, I mean, do you buy into my thought process that the second hand market or whatever you want to call it, where you've got these systems like StubHub and SeatGeek that allow people to resell tickets? Do you buy into the belief, like I do, that those platforms have affected it so that I think that people can make enough money, and it would be interesting. Like sometimes I wish, you could just say, all right, Swanee, you don't have to work anymore. Take a year off. We'll front you the cash, and then let me see with my own eyes if I could survive doing something like that. Like I wish, if you could buy tickets, say season tickets to the Charlotte Hornets, because I was trying to figure it out while I was at the game. I was like, okay, how, I knew what I paid for my seat, and I looked around the arena. It was filled with people. And then I was looking on SeatGeek to see, or StubHub or whatever, to see what the tickets down low were costing. And I'm telling you, from the time I started to buy tickets to halfway through the game, they were still at like this super premium price. Like $800-900, maybe more. And I'm looking down there at people on the whole row filled with seats, and I'm thinking, not all those people could have paid that price. And so what I really believe happens, and I could be 100% wrong on how this works. If you've sold tickets, I'll tell you this. If you've ever sold tickets on like a SeatGeek or something like that, I would love to hear from you. You can call, tell me your experience. I know what it's like if you've bought them. But if you've sold them, 803-450-0086. I am intrigued to know at a couple of things, because like my tickets came from a guy named Al. Thanks, Al. But I am interested to know. So if you were a season, let's say you bought season tickets to Clemson, and hypothetically, let's say it was you and your wife, but you had 12 seats available. And you might give a few away every once in a while to somebody, a coworker, a friend, family, whatever. But let's say you had 10 extra tickets, and some donors do. If you could sell them, let's say that you paid, again, simple math here, $50 a piece. But if you could sell them all for $75 without having to stand out there at your tailgate spot and spend half your day trying to haggle 10 tickets. And you already spent the money anyway. It's not like you're gonna necessarily be able to get it back anyway. And so instead you upload them like SeatGeek. And you decide, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put a premium on them. Now, the chances are, if you've got 12 tickets to Clemson and you've got 10 extra because you only use 2, or if you use 4 and you got 8 extra, whatever it is, there are pretty good odds that you don't have to sell them, right? You don't have to. You're probably well off enough that you're not worried about whether they sell. And so you just mark them up 25% or whatever percent you want. I'm assuming this is how it works. And then if they don't sell, you don't care. But do you know what used to happen? There used to be that same guy who had 8 tickets in his pocket, or 10, and he's walking up to the stadium, and maybe during the day he's had a couple of them just sitting up at his tailgate spot, and people came and perused them. Maybe they sold, maybe they didn't. And let's say he's got 6 tickets left. Let's say he's got 6 tickets in his hand left, and he sold some at his tailgate spot. That same guy that's now maybe got all of his tickets digitally on SeatGeek to sell. That guy in the old days might have handed 3 tickets to a father and 2 sons. There would have been the thought of giving and what that means to that father to get his son into the game, especially if you don't charge him for it. You know how this conversation goes. You're standing there outside of the stadium, and guy says to you, he says, man, how many tickets you looking for? I'm looking for 3. You guys ever been to the game? No, sir. This is the kid's first time. They are dying to go. Well, here you go, fellas. Let me take a picture of y'all. Here's the 3 tickets. Y'all go enjoy the game. And you hand the guy the ticket and you give it to him. And the joy that that man gets is much greater than the 20% he's going to make off of the tickets that he's trying to sell virtually that he may or may not ever sell. Like, I don't think it's a matter of tickets not being sold. That's the issue. I think it's a matter of getting tickets to the consumers who will go to the game. And I also believe this, going back to what I said the other day. I can't give you a single reason why upper deck tickets that are either A, not picked up by students, or B, not sold before a certain time. Let's say 10 minutes before kickoff. I can't give you a logical reason in the age of digital ticketing that service members and their families, or perhaps teachers and their families, or maybe like those people on the front lines of COVID-19, etc., and their families, why they shouldn't be able to get their hands on the ticket at a reasonable rate and help fill that stadium up, especially if you just talk about the upper deck. Especially if you talk about the upper deck. I mean, I think that's going to eventually be something we have got to look at if you're going to curb this issue. Again, we could get into all the other stuff. But I think the fact that the incentive, if that's the right word here, the incentive to move your tickets doesn't exist for a portion of the fan base who gobbles up a lot of the tickets. Truly believe that's part of the problem. 803-450-0086. Text line, phone line again. If you have ever sold a ticket on SeatGeek or StubHub, if you've ever taken your Clemson ticket virtually and put it up, my first question is, do you get to choose? Like, do you get to choose who gets the ticket? Or excuse me, not who gets it. No kidding. Do you get to choose how much you mark it up? How much the person who gets it pays? And then, secondly, can you adjust it after the game starts to try to get out from underneath some of your ticket? Or have they locked that in? Because I'm telling you, at the half of the game in Charlotte, the prices had not moved. And I thought to myself, I can't believe that 2 seats right down there, mid-court, are still up for like $900. Why wouldn't somebody just say, I'll take it for $100? Heck, man, even if somebody in the building already wanted to upgrade, what would that hurt? I got nothing for you. 803-450-0086, text line, phone line. Again, be a part of the program. Anytime, any place, anywhere. Some sad news out of Stanford today. Katie Meyer, the goalkeeper and captain of the Stanford women's soccer team, has died, according to the university. She was 22 years old. Her death occurred in an on-campus residence, and the cause of death has not been provided. She was a senior studying international relations and history. She made 2 key saves in a penalty shootout to help Stanford win the national title back in 2019. So just a tragic, heartbreaking story out of Kansas for their goalkeeper, again, who made 2 key saves in the penalty shootout to help Stanford win the national title just a few short years ago. Her life sadly over, as undisclosed reasons at this point, at just 22 years old in an on-campus residence. One other news note to get to here at the top of hour 2. Remember my thoughts the other day on Art Briles? And again, I thought it was a very difficult situation for Grambling State, right? I like just the baggage that comes with bringing a guy like Art Briles on staff, given the list of issues that took place under his watch with little, if any, punishment, control, whatever, from the head coach. I said I thought it was going to be very difficult for Grambling State to maneuver through this. Like, everybody, as I said then, I'll say it again, everybody deserves a second chance, right? Like, everybody deserves a second chance. But as I said then, and I'll say it now, and I think we're seeing this, you don't deserve a second chance to have the same opportunity that you had previously. Like, if you ran a football program that was rogue and had all kind of sexual misconduct issues and all kind of allegations, some of them I don't even like saying on the air because some of you have kids in the car, so I won't. But if you've got all that Art Briles had around him, sure, look, made huge mistake. Does he deserve a second chance to, go out and have a job and work? Yeah, he does deserve that opportunity. Should he be an offensive coordinator at a college football program? No. Should he be on a campus? No. Should he be at a high school as a coach like he was previously or an assistant? No. Like, you might deserve a second chance in life after you've made terrible mistakes, horrible, unforgivable mistakes, but you don't deserve to be back where you were, in my opinion, given the situation, the things that occurred under Art Briles. You don't. Now, Briles came out after there was so much backlash against him, saying that he didn't want to be a distraction to the football team. Briles was fired by Baylor back in 2016 after a campus-wide sexual assault investigation led to an independent investigation and his subsequent dismissal. Briles said, "Unfortunately, I feel that my continued presence will be a distraction to you and your team, which is the last thing I want. I have the utmost respect for the university and your players." So thankful he's not coaching. Should not be on a college campus. Should not have the right to make whatever money he was going to make because of this. If he can make that same money doing something different with his life, I have no idea what some of you guys listening to the show probably drive 16-wheelers. I have no idea what you guys make. But if it's six figures and Art Briles wants to hop his rear end in a truck and drive from coast to coast making shipments, hey, go get it, Art Briles. You have every right. But in my opinion, given the track record that he had at Baylor, being a football coach, a leader of young men on a college campus, I don't think so. Just doesn't make sense. And I believe in second chances for everybody. But I don't think that second chance should be, especially given what happened with Art Briles, on a college campus, coaching college football. There are jobs that he can do. Go do them. But you shouldn't have the opportunity to coach again. You just shouldn't. 803-450-0086, text line and a phone line. Be a part of the show anytime, any place, anywhere. We always appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Not going to lie. When I saw that news, man, I was excited. Final note here. Got a couple of more minutes. I'll stick with the state of Texas. Damon DeMoss, one of the top players for the Texas Aggies, wide receiver, was arrested on an assault/family violence charge after allegedly injuring his girlfriend Saturday, according to an affidavit from the Brazos County Sheriff's Department. According to the affidavit, DeMoss allegedly initiated a verbal argument with his girlfriend before it escalated into a physical altercation, with him pushing her head into a wall. She told officers she then bit him on the shoulder, at which point he grabbed her and threw her off the bed onto the floor, which caused her front teeth to go through her bottom lip. Brazos County Sheriff's arrested DeMoss, and released him on a $5,000 bond on Wednesday. A Texas A&M spokesman told ESPN DeMoss, who was the 47th best recruit in the class of 2020, has been suspended by the university and is not currently with the football program while the athletics department follows their protocol. So we'll see what happens to one of the Aggies' best weapons on the offensive side of the ball as they hit spring practice out in College Station. 803-450-0086. Text line and phone line. Again, be a part of the show anytime, any place, anywhere. Always appreciate each and every one of you being a part of the program. DeMoss was a former 5-star recruit and the second highest rated prospect for the Aggies back in the 2020 class. And we shall see what happens to him moving forward. Keep your eyes out towards College Station. All right, tonight, the Clemson Tiger men's basketball team will take on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets at Little John Coliseum. That is a 7 o'clock start, 7:01 technically, the tip-off on the ACC network. The Tigers are 14-15, 6-12 in the league. The Yellow Jackets are 11-18, 4-14 in the ACC. I think Clemson's got a great chance tonight. No doubt about it. Stay with us. It is the show that shakes the Southland, Clemson Sports Talk on a Wednesday afternoon. It feels like a Thursday. I hate that. I need to Google, like, what is that phenomenon called where all day one day you think it's the next day? Because I promise you this, and let me know if you agree. Every time that happens, it's the longest week in the history of mankind. Like, that never leads me to a shorter week. It always feels like a longer week when that happens. But all day today on the show, I've wanted to say Thursday. I may have said Thursday. It is a Wednesday here on the show that shakes the Southland. So Clemson's football team starting practice today, spring practice. John Blau couldn't be with us, but we retweeted an image that he put out just a little bit ago on Adam Randall, Clemson wide receiver, the freshman. Dabo Swinney said earlier today that Adam Randall would make it look like Justin Ross grew into his number 8 jersey. And let me just tell you, Adam Randall is a big dude. And I know that there's some depth perception things that you're probably dealing with in this photo with trying to compare his frame to Bo Collins, who's off in the distance just a little bit. We retweeted it. You need to go check it out. Monster. I mean, he is a big kid. Adam Randall, the wide receiver out of Myrtle Beach. A freshman, true freshman, that looks ready to play. I know that much. The kid looks ready to go. 803-450-0086. That'll make you feel good, especially when you know you've obviously lost Justin Ross to the NFL. You've got Will Taylor, who's out, of course, playing baseball, but out. And Frank Ladson leaves the team. I mean, when we talk about the wide receivers a lot, I'm not saying I'm just glossing over the freshmen, but I do tend for whether it's habit or whatever, I tend to kind of pass over those guys. And I don't know that you can at this point pass over Adam Randall. If that kid can run routes, look out. Look out. 803-450-0086. 803-450-0086. And I mentioned Dabo Swinney in the transfer portal, the situation with Mason Trotter being out. Looking a little further there, had a chance during the previous break. I mentioned to you that you have the right. If Clemson didn't go into the portal and find somebody, you can be frustrated by it. But Clemson is actively in the portal looking for a fit. Now, if they don't bring somebody in, where you fall on that line, I'm not sure. You know what I mean? Like I gave you permission earlier. If they didn't go out and get somebody, I gave you. I said, hey, you have my permission to be critical. As if you guys needed it. Some of you are like, Swanee, didn't need your permission. That's all right. You wanted it. You wanted my permission. So I'm giving it to you. But with all of that on the table, if Swinney looks in the portal and can't find anybody, it's that would be different, right? I guess you don't know technically if they do look in the portal. I mean, if not, Danny Pearman's got one of the lightest lifting jobs in America. But you would assume that if Swinney says, hey, we looked in the portal, we didn't see a guy we wanted, that they looked in the portal and didn't see a guy they wanted. Right now, it looks like the situation at Clemson will be Will Putnam at center, Mitchell Mays at right guard, Walker Parks at right tackle, Marcus Tate at left guard, Jordan McFadden at left tackle. So that's where it appears we are sitting at this point with Clemson's offensive line as we head towards the spring. 803-450-0086. Text line and phone line. Be a part of the show anytime, any place, anywhere. And you know how much we do appreciate you hanging out with us. One of the things I have not encouraged you to do as of late, but I will encourage you to do it today, is tell a friend or neighbor about our show. Through the years, I have seen many Tiger faithful, not just in the Midlands, but around the state, that don't know of our program. And again, it is available on the iHeartRadio app globally. It is available via podcast globally. And we broadcast live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And I cannot wait to get the show back up and going with you so that we can be more interactive with our listeners online during the show. Honest to goodness, that's one of my favorite things to do with it, is to engage with you live during the program. And unfortunately, because of the 10-second delay and the changeover in the studio and the things we're doing here, I have not been able to do that. But nonetheless, as we roll along here towards the college football campaign, I believe we are getting closer every day. And I'll tell you this. For 3 months, I hated the setup of the room. I am liking the setup of the room. I think the next step is figuring out the double delay. And if that sounds like a foreign language to you, that's okay. Trust me. It'll be a little bit of a foreign language to me too once we get rolling. 803-450-0086. Hey, the Clemson Tiger men's soccer team. Of course, we told you this past week they defeated the Greenville Triumph 2-0 over the weekend at historic Riggs Field. They are in the midst of their what's the word called? Whatever the schedule's called. It's not a real schedule. The games don't count. Not a simulation. Exhibition. Their exhibition schedule. Well, they made their way to Columbia yesterday for a big event. I'll tell you about it next. Clemson Sports Talk on a Wednesday. So the Clemson Tigers soccer team yesterday was honored at the State House as the national champions. Got a new sign, I guess, a road sign, like the football team's got the one with the 3 national titles on it. Well, guess what? Now there's one for soccer, as the Clemson Tigers soccer team will be honored around the state with the awesome signage recognizing the 1984, 1987, and the 2021 national champions. Governor Henry McMaster hosted the team. Our buddy Isaiah Reed, who I watched play when he was a kid, who scored 2 goals in the national championship. Coach Mike Noonan in tow up at the State House to recognize the accomplishments of these individuals and the job that they did this past season. What a special year and, a proud program. And I think that's one of the things, by the way, also the the Clemson flag was flying over the South Carolina State House as well. But, I think that's one of the things when you talk about Clemson baseball. I think that's one of the things that I don't want to say bothers people, but is so frustrating for people because you look at soccer and you think about how well thought of and how respected it is and how supported it is. And that's really what people want from baseball. That I think they feel like they are quite possibly one of those programs that is missing a national title that should have one. And for baseball, which I feel like in my life has gotten much more emphasis on it than soccer ever did, to watch soccer win their 3rd, right? Like football winning 3, you go, oh, yeah, but football's the big emphasis at Clemson. The second biggest emphasis is baseball. Truth. And soccer went and got another one. And soccer's been closer than baseball has ever been, really. And yet, here you sit, and it's a great start to the season, but baseball's off of a sub-500 year, and fans around that sport would be like if Clemson, okay, so like we had the interview with Monty Lee yesterday. It's up on our website right now. Go enjoy it. But I want to tell you something about Clemson baseball fans and where their heads are right now with this program. Now, I have no idea if Clemson will sweep Carolina this weekend and open the season 11-0, or if they will be swept and open the season 8-3. But I can tell you this. If the Tigers get swept by South Carolina in this 3-game series, you can. It's like, what's the game? I don't think it's Monopoly. I haven't played Monopoly in a while. But okay, here it is. I know exactly what it is. It's not Monopoly, because Monopoly, don't pass go, don't collect $200, right? You never hit like bankruptcy. You can't like land on bankruptcy. But where you can do that is on pressure luck. The old 1980s, and I know they brought it back, but the 80s was where it's at. By the way, there is a fantastic documentary on pressure luck. If you did not know this, there was a gentleman in the 80s who put cut out a cardboard box so that his TV fit in the middle of this cardboard. And he could tell there was a pattern to the game. What was this guy's name? The show, by the way, is called Big Bucks, The Pressure Luck Scandal. It was a movie. And I think that there was 4 episodes. Michael Larson was this guy's name. I mean, he was a strange bird. He died back in 1999. But Larson noticed, probably like you did watching Pressure Luck when you were a kid, that there appeared to be some sort of pattern, but not quite sure what it was. And the computers back then and the chipsets that they had designed could only do so many patterns, and Larson figured it out. You want to go watch that documentary. I think you can probably find it for free on YouTube. Big Bucks, The Pressure Luck Scandal. But this baseball team's season and start is a lot like Pressure Luck, right? 2,500 plus a spin, 5,000 plus a spin. You can feel great about where you are. And then all of a sudden,
Big Bucks, please! No, Whammy, stay away, please! This is for my sweetie. Stop!
yep, the dreaded whammy. Could it be a situation where Clemson fans feel that way about this baseball program? And that's that is the problem. The one problem Monty Lee is dealing with right now this season. It's less about the team, and I think it's more about you, the fans, and where you are with this team. Are you sticking with them after 11 games if they get swept by South Carolina, or are you looking for the where's the parachute? I thought you said this plane had parachutes. So it's kind of what it feels like. Like, the baseball program has been inundated with support. You hear from Monty Lee how good things have been at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. I expect it'll be packed on Sunday, whether Clemson's up 2-0 in the series or down 0-2. But where does that support lie, and how does that support stay with this program if they hit a troublesome patch this season? That, I think, is the biggest question. Final segment coming up right after this.
What have you done for me lately? It's a fair question. Just don't lose sight of the bigger picture. Don't forget history. Lucky for us at Clemson, the answer to the questions, what have you done for me lately, and what have you done always, are the same. We win.
Final segment on a Wednesday. It feels like a Thursday edition of the program, 803-450-0086. I was hopeful that we could get you some audio out of Tiger Town before we got you out of here, but it doesn't look like, sadly, that's going to be the case as we close in on the finish line here on the show that shakes the Southland on a Wednesday afternoon. Now, the biggest news again, Clemson Tigers center Mason Trotter is going to be out for most of the season, according to Dabo Swinney, with an issue that is not an injury or a legal situation. He'll miss, probably going to be out most of the season. What that means is Clemson's going to obviously look to the transfer portal, and we'll see if they can get somebody to come in there. One of the other storylines as well is with the play of Trenton Simpson. You know how much I love Trent Simpson. Simpson, who was the starter last year in that nickel hybrid spot, will move to the weak side linebacker. Sweeney said that's the move for him and his future. Barrett Carter will most likely move into Simpson's spot, as you would expect, as he's also a freakishly talented guy. And what that does for Clemson, in my estimation, is it is going to put two incredibly dynamic linebackers on the field to support whoever ends up being the starter in the middle, most likely Vontae Bentley. And that, look, this is going to be a dynamic linebacking group. I think, given the fact that you're going to be putting two of the more versatile defensive players on the field at the same time. I mean, this is essentially what you would, the debate that you have when you have like a great basketball player at a certain position, whatever position that is. Let's say when wasn't it the Houston Rockets at one point had Hakeem Olajuwon and Ralph Sampson? And it's like, how do you get both of these guys on the floor? They're both 7-footers who are talented. So how do you get them both on the floor? Maybe it's, I think there was a point where Georgetown had Patrick Ewing and Dikembe Mutombo. How do you get both of these guys on the court at the same time? Or no, it's Dikembe and Alonzo. Excuse me, Dikembe Mutombo and Alonzo Mourning. So how do you get both of these guys on the court at the same time? So what do you do in Clemson's scenario at linebacker? Well, you take a guy like Trenton Simpson and you put him in a spot that maybe is not his most natural position, but by allowing Barrett Carter to play a more natural position for him, you get more talent on the field, more speed on the field. And this game is all about speed. And I'm going to tell you what, that, my friends, is a big deal. A huge deal. Final couple of things. Will Shipley and Kobe Pace will be out for the spring. Shipley has been in a walking boot, as I understand it. Dabo Swinney does expect him to be fully healthy once the season gets here. He says there's nobody more disappointed than Will Shipley that he couldn't do mat drills. That guy loves every ounce of everything, but he's in a good spot with his rehab. Kobe Pace has a toe deal he's working with, turf toe or whatever you call it. Sweeney said he had surgery on that and he's rehabbing. So a couple of bumps in the road for Clemson with their top two running backs on the shelf during spring. But that'll allow Phil Maffa some opportunities to get plenty of work, you would believe. And, again, that's what spring ball is for, growing. This is not, hey, you got to be ready to play tomorrow. This is a chance and an opportunity for growth. And so that is the current situation for your Clemson Tigers. 803-450-0086. Just a quick look at what's going on in Tiger Town. We'll hope to get you some audio from Clemson tomorrow. Also, one other thing, I saw Deshaun Watson's name trending just a little bit ago, and there is some speculation again surrounding the former Clemson quarterback who is still currently with the Texans. Lovie Smith said time will take care of the Texans' Watson issue. There's also some conversation still about the Miami Dolphins and their potential pursuit of the former Tiger star. So we'll see how the legal issues work out with Deshaun Watson. Again, I was talking with somebody about this the other day, and I said, why hasn't Watson just cleared this stuff up? Why hasn't he just paid whatever needs to be paid to make this go away? And somebody made a great point to me. They said, look, man, if he didn't do it, if he's innocent, he's not the kind of guy that's going to want to pay these, pay this off to make it go away if he's truly innocent. And I thought, you know what? It's a fantastic point. Again, innocent until you're proven guilty. I have no idea if Watson did the things that are alleged, but I thought the point that, if you're innocent, why would you admit to something you didn't do? I was like, well, Valid point, I guess. We got to get out of here. We'll continue the conversations tomorrow. Till then, as always, y'all take care now. And go Tigers.